So, hello everybody. I hope you can see and hear me. Warm welcome, Happy New Year. It's 23rd of January, I think, so it's still this time to say Happy New Year and welcome all of you in our first Circular Economy CIRCULAZE Virtual Trend Tour for 2023. It was a long break. The last one was in December. It's our monthly format where we present outstanding circular economy startups that have been nominated by our jury of well-known experts in circular economy. The monthly focus today is tech and software. It's one category out of 7 circular economy categories that we developed and defined together with our experts. So we did not invent it because these are the well-known and recognized and established categories in the market. So before we start, some informations about us and our journey that we had so far. So probably maybe not all of you know us, who we are, what we're doing, what we do and why we do all of this, like a trend tour where we present outstanding startups. So 2021, it was during Corona, we had some time, extra time, and we did some interviews with companies. And the companies said the innovation will be driven by startups in the future, but our access to the ecosystem, startup ecosystem, is not well developed. So therefore, it would be cool having a platform where we get access to interesting startups. And the startups, they are always looking for getting in contact with the right decision makers. So we said, let's bring a platform in stage, an innovation platform where we connect corporates and decision makers and startups based on their interests. 2022, after many projects that we did over the last month and by building the platform, we had some interesting talks with decision makers on the other side, partners who are on our platform. And one major question that popped up often was, they said, as sustainability is an important topic, an important pillar for CIRCULAZE, within CIRCULAZE, they asked what we are offering as services or startups in circular economy. So we said that's a good question, because definitely sustainability is one of our major pillars. We wanted to create special activities. So we said, give us some time. And this was, I think, in April last year, 2022. And we came back with the thoughts of circular economy, the CIRCULAZE. Why we thought it makes sense? Well, there's shortage of raw material, the supply chain bottlenecks, global dependencies are growing, and also like climate change. There will be no CO2 neutrality without a circular economy. They are forcing to rethink in the companies. So finding the right solutions is crucial for companies and to be viable for in the future as a corporate. Circular economy in this part is providing the solutions to these pressing challenges. So in order to drive circular economy and in order to create more projects for circular economy at CIRCULAZE, we started to build, or we wanted to build, we call it vibrant ecosystem for circular economy. What does it mean, creating a vibrant ecosystem? So if you want to create more projects, first of all, even this topic is a quite old topic, we found out it's important to grow the awareness for circular economy. So all our activities are built around creating awareness for the topic, but also for the players within circular economy. The second part we want to take care of is growing knowledge. So what are the topics? What are existing solutions? Where can I find experts? What are other platforms to go to? So this is our task by creating stories, events, sharing this knowledge, but also by, and this number 3, connecting people, connecting corporates and connecting corporates and startups in order to create collaboration, in order to create knowledge sharing, friendship, whatever. This is number 3. So awareness, creating knowledge, and collaboration is our major task within CIRCULAZE. So before I continue, maybe short, because we are quite proud about what happened within 6 months, a short wrap up about the journey and what we developed so far, which brought us to decide that we will continue the journey this year with even more activities. So the idea came up in May, June. We developed the concept. In July, we started to build up our jury of experts. Why the jury of experts? So if you want to come in contact with the right startups, you can like go in all kinds of crawler databases, but then you have thousands of startups. You don't know, are they already existing? Do they still exist? Did they close down already? So lots of work to do. You could do like competitions where startups present themselves. Also a lot of work to do. So we decided, why not asking the people who are really close to the startups? And these are our jury members. Together with the jury member, we created in August last year a long list with over 100 really outstanding startups in the different fields of circular economy, the different categories. In September, then we decided to, we voted and for the top 20 startups out of these 100. Why? Because we think you need great content to create awareness. You need stories about outstanding solutions where people are really surprised what's already happening in the circular economy market. So therefore, after we selected and voted the top 20 startups, the team of our editorial team around our co-founder, Natasha, created stories, interviews about these startups that we then presented over our social media channels and our partners to other companies so they can get in contact and meet these startups. One highlight was then last year, the CIRCULAZE night, where we had 100 guests, startups, corporate decision makers, where they met each other. It was awesome. Everybody was really delighted about the quality of speakers, the quality of decision makers, the quality of startups. And at the end of December, November, December, we did the virtual trend tours. So a lot of things that happened within 6 months. The result was that startups and corporates really forced us to continue. And that's the reason why we're sitting here together with the virtual trend tour for tech, but also you will see during the year many more other activities like exchange, where we do online workshops, where we bring together our corporate partners. With CIRCULAZE on tour, we will visit behind the scenes existing solutions. So like in April, we will be in at BMW to visit their circularity lab, where they collect cars, and based on the future, how have they to build cars, they use this circularity lab by, oh, my English is getting worse, by zerlegen. Oh, forget it. Just join us and you will find out how it is. And what we also will create is the CIRCULAZE Festival, huge festival where we also will invite talent students from universities. All in all, 1,000 guests in October at the CIRCULAZE Festival. So many things what will happen this year again. This was only possible because our partners who want to thank to, it's like DB Cargo, it's Dativ, Hermersbach, Food Affairs, de facto, Auto BHF, a private bank, 4P Capital, the VP Group, Chick Wolfskin, Messe München, Bayersdorf, and Rödl & Partner. These guys make it possible that we can do all these activities like CIRCULAZE Night, or for example, to do a trend tour like we do today. So it's done. The advertising is over. No worries. Now we go into the startups, and the startups will present themselves. It will be Loopcycle, Circular IQ, and devicenow. After each presentation, where they present their solutions, you will have plenty of time to ask questions. So feel free to type in your questions during or after the presentation of the startups. But before we start with the startups, I'm happy to announce that Daniel Dippold Daniel Dippold. It sounds much easier in German. Our keynote speaker will give us an overview about the markets, why it's so important in circular economy that tech is developing forward, what kind of solutions do we need, what kind of problems they have to solve. Daniel is a serial entrepreneur, founder, investor, friend, and supporter and partner of CIRCULAZE. He's founder of Sigma Square Society, nonprofit organization, global community of the world's most ambitious founders. He's also founder of EWOR, a very interesting platform where we also work together, who are developing projects together with really high-level experts in order to make more circular economy projects happen. So definitely Daniel will tell you a little bit more maybe about himself. Also after his presentations, feel free to ask questions. So I'm done. Enjoy the ride together with Daniel and our 3 startups. Daniel, the stage is yours.
Thanks for the kind intro, Klaus. I will share my screen. Give me a second and let me know if you can all see this. Rachel, if you can put a short message in the chat or something to indicate whether you can see this, that would be fantastic.
Yep, you're all good.
Fantastic, cool. So very happy to share a couple of quick words about myself, as Klaus indicated. So I have a background in both business and pure mathematics. The first 2 businesses I was building were deep tech companies. The first one was measuring emotional intelligence proxies based on sound waves. The second one is still developing. I'm out operationally, but still developing no code and AI applications for Deutsche Bank, E.ON, Philips, the big corporations out there. What we do is we make it very easy for business decision makers to use artificial intelligence with our software. But as he also indicated, I kind of went into nonprofit and community building and so on, and started investing in startups. I'm not a huge angel investor. I've invested in around 19 tech companies by now, but I'm definitely a very passionate one. And it's fantastic to support entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, is something I do enjoy doing, because many other companies I could invest in, they also know way more about starting off than I do. So I rather don't see this as something where my expertise actually adds any value. I'm here today to talk a little bit about the tech ecosystem. Since I've started that nonprofit Klaus was talking about, I've kind of been exposed around 30 countries where our chapters are, and kind of seen tech trends all over the globe. And I think in the end, it boils down to one single message, and that message I want to share today. It might be an odd and surprising one, but it's definitely what I believe is happening, and why tech is so hyped right now, and why it's so exciting to most people. But before I go into that, let me share an anecdote about Paul Ehrlich and Julian Simon. Some of you might still know Paul Ehrlich. I would be very surprised if many of you still know him. He was a professor at Stanford and an expert when it comes to chaos and the butterfly effect, and also all sorts of social phenomena. And he wrote a book called The Population Bomb in 1968. And what he said in that book basically was very simple. He said, we're all doomed. We're all going to die, because global food supply is not able to meet global food demand. Global food demand and the population is going to grow like this. It's an exponential curve, and food supply is growing linearly. We can't possibly cope with that exponential population growth, and that's why we're all going to die. And he had many scenarios of describing that, leading to atomic war and whatever. And there was one person disagreeing with him. All the others actually mostly agreed with him. The book was a bestseller. He was invited to all sorts of talk shows sharing his doomsday story. But Julian Simon said, I don't believe this is going to happen, because what you underestimate, Paul Ehrlich, is that humans will come up with solutions that we haven't even seen yet. And they will grow exponentially, just the way global population is just growing exponentially at the moment. Obviously, Paul Ehrlich didn't buy it, so the two of them made a bet. And they said, well, let's look into the next 10 to 20 years. And if Julian Simon is right, he wins the bet. If Paul Ehrlich is right with his doomsday scenario, he wins the bet. And as we all know today, Paul Ehrlich didn't win. Even though he was the most respected scientist in that regard, his calculation was completely wrong because he actually underestimated human innovation. He underestimated all the things he didn't even think about could happen. Hybridized seeds, new water cooling techniques, new management strategies, and so on, that actually allowed food supply to grow. And that's something we've recently seen all the time, that we suddenly do these completely wrong predictions. And I think that's also why tech is so hyped these days. It's exactly the same thing. And I want to explain that in a second. The reason to me is we live in two worlds. We live in one world that is heavy-tailed and another world that is, as you would call, normally distributed. To make this a little bit easier to understand, I usually say there's one world that's about bananas and another world that's about income and money. That's obviously just a proxy. Nassim Taleb calls this mediocristan, bananas, and extremistan, referring to money, because money is much more extreme. I will explain that in a second. In statistics, you would call this normal distributions and heavy tail distributions, hence the name. It's very simple. The message is, if you have one banana, like, it's very unlikely for extreme bananas to occur. Let's say an average banana is around 18 centimeters. There might be a banana that is twice as big, 36 centimeters, maybe even a half a meter banana, but there's definitely not going to be a banana that is 10 times bigger than a normal one, or 100 times or 1,000 times. That just doesn't happen. It's just impossible. And so far, most of our lives were spent in a world that behaves like the world of bananas. Extreme events are just extremely unlikely. And if they occur, they don't occur in huge magnitude. However, since the invention of money, things have gotten way more relative and extreme, and especially since the internet, I will come to that in a second, that skyrocketed like crazy. If you look at the average income of a person, around 40K, depending on like which country you're looking at and so on, it's very well likely that a person is earning 10 times that. It's even likely that a person is earning 100 times that. It's even likely that one person is earning more than a couple 10,000 people together. And that's the world of heavy tails. And what the reason for that is basically complexity theory. And as a pure mathematician myself, one of my favorite theories out there is complexity theory. Complex system is diverse, connected, interdependent, and adaptive. And the gist to me is very simple. Every day, the world is becoming more diverse, more connected, more interdependent, and more adaptive. And that is just leading to a world that is much more like the world of money, where things just get extreme, 1,000 times more extreme than the average, and less similar to the world of bananas, where things roughly evolve around one normal thing. And they're not that different to normal. They might be a little bit diverse, but not that extreme. And the biggest amplifier of this was the internet. The internet started around, like the 1990s, a little bit earlier, right? And then it just scaled exponentially. Around 3.5 billion, 2016, around 5 billion of people being in the internet right now. And that just leads to a very different world. Think about the world of a startup founder. Suddenly, when you have a good idea, not like 1,000 years ago, or let's maybe say 100 years ago, before the internet, only the people you would have in your network, the people you could talk to, would know about your idea. Now you can basically put your idea on the internet. Everyone wants to know about it. Everyone wants to fund it if it's a good idea. And you can suddenly find the world's best investors, not by knowing them, but just by putting your idea on the internet. And that is something entirely new. And that, in my opinion, has led to all of the disruptive change. We're all talking about AI and Web3 and whatnot, but in my opinion, it's really that increasing scalability adaptability, diversity, and so on of the internet. It's suddenly possible to scale something infinitely much and to make ideas and products behave like money in the same extreme way. It's similarly relative. We can just self-replicate a product the way we can self-replicate money, which is exactly why we now see billionaires, while other people are just having an average income of 40,000 euros a year. Because we can self-replicate these things and they just amplify crazier and crazier and crazier. The same is true for products. That's immensely new. Like the companies we built pre-1990 are completely different to the companies we can build post-1990. And that leads to a bunch of things. So in 2013, there were around 4 unicorns being minted, so created every year. I think there was a decade average. So over the decade from 2003 to 2013, we saw around 4 unicorns a year. That changed. We saw a couple years later, 568 unicorns, exactly because companies suddenly behave like money. It's a heavy tail distribution, similarly to the one we saw earlier, right? Suddenly it's so easy to just take a product, replicate it infinitely on the web, and have an impact that is beyond imagination. The average time to unicorn of a typical tech startup, that's, by the way, written correctly, of a typical tech startup is around 3 years. So from 0 to $1 billion company valuation takes around 3 years. And then we can argue, okay, many of these valuations are bloated. That's absolutely true. I think especially 2021 was a bubble, but still it's incomparably easier to distribute a product like Airbnb, like Dropbox, like Stripe around the entire globe within no time. And that just wasn't possible before. And because of that change, all driven by the internet, in my opinion, we can suddenly see these crazy unicorns all the time. Most of them, by the way, as you see here in the second point, are driven by crisis and recession. So most unicorns are actually started in recession, which is odd if you think about it, right? But recession, crisis, and so on brings opportunity. And that in the end leads to scaled opportunity exploitation, thanks to the internet and everything that comes with it. And that in the end makes a unicorn be born. We also see that in corporate innovation. I know that a bunch of you here today are coming from a rather corporate environment, so I don't want to make that too startup focused only. And if you look at the time that a corporation was staying in the S&P 500 index, that was around 60 years in 1958, 62 to be specific. It's now around 18 to 16 years. It's an extrapolation from a report that was actually dated to 2012, but we can clearly see that disruption is a thing. If you look at the half-life time of a company, 1990, that was around 30 years. I would call this pre-internet. Post-internet is around 5 years. So most of the phenomena we are seeing here today are actually just phenomena of this crazy scale that is now possible, of that self-replication that we can do all the time. And there's now so many industries out there that we are defining, but in my opinion, the message stays the same. And that is also my mantra when investing into companies. I obviously do invest a lot in green tech at the moment because I believe it's just having a tremendous impact on the world and can solve many of the big challenges out there. However, the companies that do scale and that do work well in my portfolio, they're usually exploiting the internet in some way and just making use of that self-replication. There's artificial intelligence, there's cybersecurity, there's Internet of Things, there's Web3, there's green tech, there's edtech, there's fintech, hardware, data science, and so on, which I sometimes find odd is separate to AI and similar industries. They're all somewhat intertwined. And the common pattern that I see is either you are operating a startup in a heavy-tailed environment, the world of money, not the world of bananas, then it scales very fast and you see potential of a unicorn. One of the companies I invested in was valued around 10 million at the beginning of the year. It's now valued, that was 2020, it's now valued around 150 million. That doesn't happen in the world of bananas. It's just impossible, right? But in the world of self-replication, in the world of money, that can happen all the time. And I think the common denominator is not the industry we are talking about. It's definitely the fact about how scalable is that. And that boils down to complexity theory. We also see this when looking at statistics and industries and so on. We actually see most of the unicorn companies being born in around fintech, internet, e-commerce, and so on. Most of those companies that are closer to operating on the internet are basically that scalable, right? And that, in my opinion, is driving that change. And that, in my opinion, is driving why so many corporations are being disrupted, why the half-life time of a corporation was reduced 5-fold within 30 years and is decreasing even further. The most recent statistic, but I haven't seen that backed properly, so I haven't included it here, is it's even 3 years by now, not 5 years anymore. So companies are dying quicker and quicker because other companies are replacing them and scaling quicker and quicker. And that's just a world we need to get used to. So I think it's a fantastic time to be a founder now because of that, because there's never been an easier time to change the world. It's never been easier to just go out there with a solution that is absolutely scalable, put it on the internet, scale it drastically, and change the world. And there's people who changed the world in the last couple of years within years. And that is a completely new phenomenon. I think that's never been possible in the past. So it's a fantastic time to be a founder. It's also a fantastic time to be an investor. Because that world of heavy tails offers never seen before returns. And I think that is really why we've seen so many VCs. And that's why VCs invest in so many extreme cases. They just need one company out of 30 that scales in a heavy-tailed way and returns all the money the fund needs. It's a completely new way of investing. It's a way of investing that we haven't seen like 30 or 50 years ago, but it works now because we're living in that new world. And on the other hand, I think it's not a fantastic time to be an incumbent, to be a company that is very large and slow in that regard. And I think corporate innovation and speed needs to be redefined. I think it has to become normal for corporations to build startups and to grow startups out of themselves. They don't have to invest and they don't have to become venture capitalists. But I think it's necessary these days to kind of start building things that scale and building things that make use of the world of self-replication. And hence, to me, what really matters, and I think why green tech is so important right now, is because we're having huge challenges. Similar to what I started with, the world of Paul Ehrlich that was driven by overpopulation, we have a different challenge right now. We have the challenge of, for example, climate change, amongst many others, like inequality and so on, right? But the one of climate change is really a big one. We do have 2022 being the hottest year ever, 2021 being the second hottest year ever measured, 2020 being the third hottest year ever measured. That continues for around 8 years. This is a huge problem. And if I was Paul Ehrlich, I would write a book about this and say, we're all doomed. We can basically finish right now. There's no chance of making a difference. But since I know the story of Paul Ehrlich, I think there's definitely something we can do. And the bigger the problem is, the more energy we can focus on it and the easier it will be solved in terms of scale. So my message to leave you with is do things that scale. There's never been a better time to change the world. I've said that earlier. It's never been easier to grow something out of nothing within a bunch of years that affects the entire planet, but focus them on things that matter. Because at the end of the day, it's easy to move money around and become a fintech unicorn, but what really matters is the challenges we're currently facing. And what I applaud to is founders like the one we're seeing today that use the technologies and the tech we're seeing these days, artificial intelligence, Web3, whatnot is out there to solve these big challenges. And I think there's never been a better time to do that. That is my message for you today. I'm really excited about the pitches. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Klaus and Natasha and Rachel. And I wish you all a fantastic set of pitches.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. As I haven't seen so far questions, I have a question. So feel free. There's the F&A, so Fragen und Antworten, so like FAQ. So feel free to type them in. I have a question. So you are very deep in the tech market, and this is our major topic today. Do you see any difference if you look like at startups in, like, let's call it the sustainable market compared to the classical, whatever is classical technology market? Are there other types of startups or other speed, other scalability? The topic of profitability, is this an issue? So it would be interesting to get your view on this two actually different approaches, maybe also in the market, but maybe there's no different approach in the market.
Yeah, I think the most scalable companies that are doing what is normal in tech and are just applying it to a circularity challenge. I think those are probably the most scalable solutions out there. And they are fueled by a drastic change out there. Because if you look at where government grants go, where a kind of, corporate sustainability budgets and whatnot goes, where regulation goes, like looking at supply chain and all the regulations around supply chain right now, it's very easy to see that focus is moving to green tech. If you combine this focus, that money, attention, whatever, people, employee, purpose, and so on, right, flowing into a certain direction, with the scalability of tech, we just see an amplified impact. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing I believe that definitely is going to come back is hardware, because we're just not going to get that CO2 out of the atmosphere with software purely, right? So we're going to see a bunch of immensely successful green tech hardware companies, in my opinion. However, I don't think they're going to scale as fast as those typical tech ventures, we've seen in the past 20 years, because it's just not doable for hardware, right? So we need to invest a tremendously higher effort in making these hardware companies work. And this is something I'm personally very curious about, because most venture capitalist models are not built to support hardware. They're actually built in a way so that the LPs get their fund return in around 10 years from now. So essentially, what happens is hardware is not invested in, because it's quite unlikely to return and flip the company that quickly. So I think we really need to invent a new way of supporting hardware companies in a systematic way if we want to make such a drastic impact. And for example, one thing we at EWOR are working on is to create an evergreen fund structure that just allows us to invest with longer investment cycles and thus support hardware that couldn't otherwise be supported. But it's not easy for us to do this alone, because then we need follow-up investors and other people in the ecosystem, and they're currently just very scarce. So that's kind of new company I see coming, because we have to build that hardware company to solve the biggest challenges. And it's just very difficult to scale that quickly. And that brings me to the last point you've mentioned, profitability. A way to scale these hardware companies is just to stay closer to profitability, to grow them in a more bootstrap manner, and thus make it possible to just grow fast, because you don't even have to play that VC game. So essentially, I think, yes, we will see different companies, but they're going to grow slower. The ones that are going to grow fastest and make the biggest impact quickly are going to be the typical tech companies we've seen before, focused on impact topics.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, that covers the same thoughts like we have, and when we approach like setting up the long list and collecting the startups, and it will phase up later on when we will see this when we now have the 3 startups coming up about where they're, because like from our perspective, when we have been looking in the market, like they're like kind of different categories, like technology is one of these. There's also like plastic and packaging. And one topic is about, this is related also to like you call it hardware part. You said, is it delivering this solution a better consumption, for example, of the product? So like the purchasing process, but also consuming the product. How can I consume the product? So do we actually need a smartphone to do 2 calls, or could it maybe be our glasses and we don't need anymore? So that will reduce the hardware and will be a new way of consuming communication technology, for example. The other one is like, this is much more like relay what you said, hardware, like, is it creating a better product? So do we use like other materials which are really from cradle to cradle? You can throw it on the compost and it disappears. So the plastic that is used within will this be differently. So I think this is an important part of like, if you have a look at this, but this is, like you said, this is related hardware, because better product, mostly if you, anywhere you go, food, tech, whatever, it's material. So that's interesting in the investors market. Another one, this is maybe closer to the investors market, is it, and we have 2 of them today are in the software market. Is it delivering a better service, we call it, like, so is or a digital solution? Does it help to coordinate things better? Does it help to collect data in improving the business and becoming more circular, for example? So this is the one which I think maybe is much closer to the classical investors market, where they have like an much easier entrance to invest there. And the 4th one, I think this is one of the most important, but it's interesting how like this is evaluated by the investors market. Does it create better waste management? So better waste management, they use less water? Do they use less energy? Do they maybe reuse more materials with existing products? Like, as I mentioned at the beginning, when we will go to meet BMW, they will collect the cars in order to have a look at how can they build cars in the future in order to reuse existing materials. I don't know what Kabelbaum means in German, but there are many in a car, and this is a shortage of Kabelbäume right now in the market. So how can I build a car in the future that I have less waste and I can get a better reuse in the market? So that's how we look at, and a lot of these topics, actually only the service one and maybe the better consumption, the others are heavily related to material, hardware, etc. So therefore it was interesting to get your view on this. And I agree, all the time when I send over startups to venture funds, they said, they have a really heavy hardware part, and then they're out already.
Yeah, very typical thing for venture capitalists. It's a very specific market, in my opinion, built for internet companies. Almost all the companies that get funded by venture capitalists are in some relation to the internet, and just have these super fast scaling factors, platform economics usually. So the more people are kind of buying into it, the bigger the value gets, and thus scale very fast, can be returned very fast, and deliver the returns that VCs want to see. It's a very specific niche thing, and I think it's leading to a world where many solutions that should be funded aren't funded because they're not just fitting to the model, and they can't, like work with the typical investors venture capital model, but in the end, they would be good for the planet, right? And this is a gap I think we currently have in the system that needs to be solved. And I think it will be solved within the next 5 to 10 years, because if we don't, the big problems of today will just get more and more pressing. And, there's going to be people that are just going to work together to make this work. It can't be that some promising hardware green tech solutions aren't funded just because they don't fit the typical VC model.
Yes, thank you. I think what we have today, definitely the solutions are good to the planet, and it's good to the companies and help the companies with their problem. Because I think this is also one important topic, because if not, they would not invest the companies in or work together with these startups. So thank you, Daniel. And we will start now with our startups that have been nominated for the long list and which have been voted for the top 20 startups of circular economy last year. Number 1 will be Lugano. I just say Lugano. How is your name spelled? Kapembwa? Is this correct when I say it like this?
Kapembwa. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. So Loopcycle, a short introduction from my side, who will explain it perfectly later on, is has been developed an interesting B2B digital platform for commercial equipment circularity. So that helps, if I get it right, commercial equipment manufacturers and other and operators to trace, manage, and recover physical assets throughout their life cycle. That was the pitch that actually Clotilde Veronneau, she was nominating you from Plug and Play, and she made it possible that you have been elected to the top 20 startup last year. So congratulations again on this way, and we're looking forward to listen to your presentation. After your presentation, Q&As. So to the audience, if you have any questions, push the button at F&A at the bottom and write down the question. I will ask Lugano afterwards your questions. So the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Klaus. And yeah, really great presentation. Thank you also, Daniel, for that as well. My name's Lugano. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Loopcycle. My background is very much in the sustainable circular economy space, working with corporates to solve their problems. And really one of the key things that came out of my experience is that sustainability is full of so many buzzwords, but there are very few tools and mechanisms to actually help them to understand what it means in tangible terms. And we're hoping through Loopcycle, we can actually help companies make tangible steps towards addressing their carbon footprint, but also to making sure that equipment remains in the circular economy. And that's why we're here today. We all know the statistics, the pretty damning statistics about irreversible climate change and the time that we have left to stop irreversible climate change and the need to move towards this net zero carbon society. However, a lot of the kind of emissions that are caused in the supply chain, up to about 70% of emissions are actually caused within the supply chain, therefore outside the immediate scope of a business. And therefore, we can't move towards this net zero economy in a meaningful way unless we really start to grapple with scope 3 emissions and to understand the carbon impacts of our activities upstream and downstream of our operations. However, there is that old saying that you really can't manage what you don't measure, what you don't track. And when you look at the business to business supply chains, you typically have a manufacturer and they sell a product through to an operator. And they do so through a distribution network, which is often the most efficient route to scale. However, as a result of this distribution network, these intermediaries in the supply chain, the manufacturers actually lose touch of who their operators are. And when I say operators, I'm talking about businesses that use their products. So they have no visibility of their equipment operators. And as a result of that, there's limited commercial value because they can't maximize lifetime value of the customer. But also there's an inability to recover products with valuable components that could be recycled back within the supply chain. And when those products actually reach the operators, there's another problem around inventory management. A lot of operators use Excel to manage their inventory, which is it's great for many things, but not designed for inventory management. And so they quickly lose touch of what they have in their sites and how the various equipment is being managed and maintained. So that actually affects their OPEX, their operational expenditure, and also limits the life of the product as well. And we've identified these, the manufacturers and the operators have identified these barriers and these opportunities to actually extract more value within the B2B value chain. For manufacturers, knowing where more of their products go will enable them to maximize their revenues, but also move towards a circular economy and move toward better recycling and remanufacturing of products. But also asset operators have realized the importance of innovation and the digital economy to actually helping them to manage their inventories in a more effective way. And really, that's where Loopcycle exists. So that's why we exist, to create this world where every product is traced and trusted. And we do this in 3 ways. So from the point of production, we enable manufacturers to trace their products through to their operators through a unique code of provenance that is generated for every product that comes off the manufacturing line. And that is activated when it reaches the operator site, creating a critical portal through which information can be exchanged over the lifetime of that product between manufacturer and operator. For the operators, they can capture all of their products to manage them and track them between their sites in one complete digital inventory. And then when that product is no longer needed by that operator, it can then be sold or donated to other companies within the Loopcycle ecosystem, enabling that product, the life cycle of that product, to be extended. So the way we see it and our approach to the circular economy is through what we call a two-way digital ecosystem. By connecting all of these points, all of these actors within the value chain, we unlock product provenance, so that's the physical movement of the product, but also customer intelligence, an actual understanding of how a product is used in the field compared to how a manufacturer expected that product to be used. And then what is that impact in terms of the carbon emissions, in terms of waste avoided, in terms of resource consumption? And enabling this data to move through this ecosystem will unlock better decision-making at all points in the life cycle. Manufacturers will have better data to design and build products better. Operators will actually have better data to manage the products better. And then those products can then move easily to new destinations. So we currently work with manufacturers and operators of commercial kitchen equipment. Commercial kitchen equipment is quite a targeted market right now, but really COVID exposed a real opportunity for us, because a lot of the establishments that were shut very quickly were the hospitality sector. And so you have kitchen environments that were either closed or mothballed, and actually the operators of these kitchens paid money to actually have the equipment removed, when there is a lot of value in commercial kitchen equipment, and over 90% of it is actually high-grade steel. Now, these manufacturers manufacture this equipment into the operator side. So the operators are typically pubs and restaurants, hotels, hospitality, public sector estates. So these are in the UK, these are your jails, your public sector buildings, and also commercial real estate. However, we see Loopcycle as being a scalable solution across the built environment. There are many other sectors, from commercial heating and ventilation, gym equipment, and also furniture, whereby the same supply chain dynamic exists, and therefore Loopcycle can actually be used to solve that same supply chain problem. So let's look at how we're actually working currently. So this is a company called EcoFast. They were actually our very first manufacturer to join the platform. And if you can see this code of provenance, that code is unique to every single product. And if you have a smart device with you, you can actually scan this product now. It should be live, famous last words, but you should be able to access the information of that product and where it's currently located. Now, this information and having this data to hand enables EcoFast to not only tag the unit itself, but what you will notice if you manage to scan this product, there is a sub-product tab. And within that, there are 4 individual product components that are of real value to this unit that are also registered independently. So they're registered as child products attached to the parent product. What this allows EcoFast to do is collect, refurbish, and resell unwanted products and unwanted components within these products, to essentially swap them out to keep the unit in operation for as long as possible. So essentially what they're able to create for the operator is a full service database on how that product is maintained and what works in terms of repairing and maintenance have been undertaken. It's used as a valuable sales tool because EcoFast can easily access sites and product information, and also update information as well as the product develops and as new information on the product becomes available. And it is a paperless information channel for information to be continuously exchanged without the need for paper documents that often get lost very easily. When we look at these operators and the operator sites, we talk a lot about operational excellence. And what we mean by this is the ability to optimize the management of that product in a way that reduces the operational expenditure, reduces operational downtime, improves the relationship with not only the supplier of that product, but also the intermediaries who are responsible for the management and maintenance of that product, then also improve the sustainability and the resource recovery aspect as well. By doing that, through enabling the service history of the product to be captured, to track the movement of assets between sites, and actually start profiling product performance in terms of the nature of the faults that are often reported, and being able to profile those faults by different sectors, we can actually unlock better purchasing decisions and also enable budget to be recovered for redeployment elsewhere. We've recently completed the development of our embodied carbon. So what this does actually is it marries the physical movement of the asset along with the embodied carbon of that product as well. And so what we enable operators to do at any point is to understand the embodied carbon of the kitchen equipment that they have at any of their sites. We also project the logistics emissions involved in moving the product from one location to another. So we can actually help improve the accuracy of the carbon reporting of both the operators of this equipment and also the manufacturers in terms of their Scope 3 reporting as well. And where we've done this is within larger stakeholders. This is actually one of the NHS sites in the UK, one of the largest ones in Cambridge, and they have a problem with laboratory grade freezers and fridges. And really what they were looking for was an asset solution, an asset management solution that will enable them to trace and manage this equipment in a lot better, a lot more effectively, because currently the financial environmental impacts pose a problem for them. And what we demonstrated is not only that we can onboard the operator, the manufacturer, and their intermediaries like their service providers. We can code all of their assets, both at the site level, but also individually. But also we can integrate with other systems. So ERP systems, systems that enable the product's serial numbers to be traced. Also CAFM systems for asset management. The ability of our platform to interact and share data across these different platforms means that actually the data is only entered once, and that reduces the potential duplication and errors that can exist. And we were actually subsequently been recommended to the rest of the NHS as a tool that can be used to help them to manage their inventory in a more sustainable and more cost-effective manner. And then closing the loop, our reuse marketplace. This enables customers to sell products to other members within the platform. It also enables operators of large estates to create internal marketplaces to move products between different sites. This actually has been quite important for large, for example, restaurants and franchise companies that have many franchisees, because they can move valuable commercial kitchen equipment between sites to, for example, fulfill menu orders where they actually have the right equipment to meet the needs of their menus. But also, and potentially most importantly, is that it facilitates direct product recovery by the original manufacturers of this product. Through clicking a button, the original manufacturer can be notified that a product is no longer wanted by the operator and can then be recovered by the original manufacturer. So just quickly to summarize, just want to reiterate how happy we are and how flattered we are to be part of the top 20 circular economy startups. It was a very exciting end into the year for us. And also we've started the year by being recognized by the Hospitality Insights top technology trends for 2023. We've also been part of the Barclays Unreasonable Impact for disruptive, sustainable companies across Europe. And also we completed the Manufacturing for Good Accelerator program by the University of Cambridge last year as well. So we feel we're really well set up for the year ahead. And what we're keen to do is to connect more with manufacturers and operators who are seeking to drive more circular outcomes, to manage equipment more efficiently, and to also make sure that resources are recovered when they're no longer needed through product traceability, and look forward to the discussions ahead. And thank you again for your time. I'll take any questions.
Perfect. So I'm back here. Thanks a lot for your presentation, Lugano. Cool. I love your solution. And there's one question I had in mind, and Martin was asking this question, was typing down the question. So he asked, how do you get the operators to register the product? And I would add, like, how do the distributors, I call them distributors, support this process also? Because I think what you want to achieve is that the producer is coming closer to the end user, what means the distributor in between maybe might not really like this step. So my question from Martin, how do you get the operators to register? And on the other hand, how do the distributors support this?
Right, it's a good question, and thank you for that. The distributor is still an essential part of the ecosystem. They're still the efficient way to get the product from manufacturer to operators at bulk. The incentive for the distributor is actually to be, because the distributors often play a part in the service contracting and management of that product on behalf of the operator. So what the distributor can do is collect all of the information on the products that are with the operator centrally and actually manage that process for them via the platform. So it's essentially a single portal to manage many different products. The distributor, by being a part of that process, can actually support in the data and analytics on behalf of the operator, which also makes them more valuable to the manufacturer as well. So it's one of those things where a lot of distributors, and being honest, a lot of distributors, anything new and disruptive is always going to be greeted with a little bit of apprehension. But there are a lot of distributors now who have recognized the benefit of being part of this connected ecosystem and being in the middle of that, process. In terms of getting the operator on board, the operators, what they're incentivized by is the fact that a lot of them have inventory needs. They are spending money, for example, to get products repaired that are actually still in warranty, but they don't know that because they don't know the warranty status of equipment. By having a central point where their products are stored, managed, where things like warranty data, maintenance records, all of these things are kept in one place, an operator can essentially walk into a kitchen and know exactly what's in warranty and what isn't. This actually will help them save money. It will also help them manage faults via the platform that would avoid unnecessary call-outs. So there actually is a potentially large financial saving for the operator through managing things in a more connected way. So really, that's the incentive for operators to be involved in the Loopcycle platform.
It's interesting. I probably think there will anyhow come different reasons why this will help and this will work out. One will be probably maybe government will make obligations to take back. So they have to really track everything and everybody. It has to show which product will be. It's not today, maybe. Is it already in England, like these kind of obligations that people are forced to do this?
There's certain areas where there's growing legislation, mainly in things like packaging, and extended producer responsibility is a big deal. For example, also in Europe, I know there's legislation now that prevents equipment or waste products that aren't waste from actually being disposed of because of their value. So really, manufacturers are now taking note of the need to manage or to understand where their products are going. But another more important part, I guess, financial drivers are always king at the end of the day. And with the supply chain shortages, many manufacturers in certain sectors are taking months to fulfill orders and actually are losing business to smaller manufacturers who potentially can move quicker. So by having something where they know where products are, they can recover products, they can be more involved in the secondhand market of these products to actually use them to keep customers whilst they await new products. So there's legislative drivers, but there's also those supply chain pressures and ultimately losing money, which is a huge driver for a lot of these companies. Yeah,
I totally agree. We will see later on when devicenow is showing their solution. They're somehow in kind of the same market you're doing. Yeah. I don't want to tell too much, but this is exactly what you're talking about. It's about reusing, keeping longer in the market. One final question I see. Max is asking, do you see further use cases than commercial equipment?
Absolutely. Our challenge, as any startup will probably tell you, is cementing your position where you've found this product market fit, whilst having your head turned at various other sectors that are asking you for your solution. So we're working with other manufacturers. Commercial carpets is another one. These also, we've got medical devices. We've also got things even like as far as uniforms, sensitive uniforms. So the recycling of uniforms, whereby you have to remove sensitive information on those uniforms in order to recirculate them and recycle them. There are so many different uses. Our challenge really is to continue going in the sector we've got, whilst slowly validating and planning our move into these other sectors, where also, if I'm honest, there may be other platforms that are fulfilling similar functions as well. So that's also something to be mindful of.
Cool. Thank you. We will follow your journey. Stay close. So probably we're going to see you hopefully this year then at our CIRCULAZE night, where as an alumni, as one of the first winner of the top 20 last year, you can write down your diary. 24th of November in Munich will be a big party. And
fantastic.
Then we have the festival. So maybe we're going to see you there live in person.
Thank you, Klaus.
And enjoy. Thanks a lot for joining us. And
thank you.
For everybody who wants to get his contacts, if doesn't have it, is in LinkedIn, or you can call us and I will connect you guys together.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you in Munich. Cheers.
Bye. So the next one in line is Circular IQ. I met Roy in Munich. He was with our event at CIRCULAZE Night. He's right now in Antwerp. He has the wings over the head, not behind the shoulders. But there are the wings. You can see that they are flying high. They're a quite successful startup. This is same like what I mentioned, like if we talk about tech, it's tech and software solutions we talk today. It's not only technology, it's also about how software can help to improve and become more circular companies. So Circular IQ offers a digital platform to measure, improve, and report on circular performance through smart data gathering and analysis. And the software combines and simplifies the data to complete the picture of your business circular performance. Interesting topic. I come from the CRM market. It's all about data and customer behavior, and just about really making business more circular, about gathering, collecting data. So I'm looking forward to your presentation. The stage is yours, and the same for the others. If there's any questions, type them in, and I'm going to ask Roy afterwards the questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Klaus. I'm happy to be here today. So my name is Roy Vercoulen. I'm the founder of Circular IQ, and we are a software company that helps businesses to over-deliver on their sustainability promises. Let me see how I can change the slide. There it is. So I don't know how many of you have watched or read about the World Economic Forum meetings in Davos last week. One of the things that was presented and discussed heavily there was the Circularity Gap Report. This is a global study that is being launched annually that basically shows to what extent on a global level we are able to close the materials loop. For 2023, the percentage is 7.2%, which is the lowest it has basically ever been. So what this means is that in the process we have going on now, where we take materials from the earth, we create products, we use the products, and then basically all the materials get wasted. They are lost forever. On the one hand, we know that our world is a closed ecosystem. Our resources are finite, and yet we are very unsuccessful in putting materials to use instead of using them up. One of the places where we actually have better performance is in IT hardware, and even there, 17% of the weight of these products And as you can see by the materials listed here, these are all valuable materials with heavy stress on the value chains. And even there, only 17% is downcycled once. So with Circular IQ, we solve that problem. So we basically provide a materials accounting solution. So just like in business, you have financial accounting, it makes a lot of sense to also start with materials accounting. What I mean with materials accounting is having a very clear oversight on the materials that are flowing into your organization and the materials and products that are flowing out of your organization, and registering what % of your inflow and what % of your outflow can be considered circular. Because that does not only influence your GHG emissions or your impact on waste generation, but it also relates to your contribution to resource depletion. So the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, which is a CEO-led organization where 200 of the world's Fortune 500 CEOs collaborate to tackle sustainability issues. Back in, let's say, 5 years ago, they started strategizing on the circular economy with the goal to come up with a common language for measuring circular performance. So they created a working group with, let's say, the leading players in the sustainability and the circular economy space. So the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, WEF's platform for accelerating the circular economy, Citra, GRI, Cradle to Cradle. So all the leaders to align on definitions behind this common language, this reporting standard for the circular economy. And WBCSD has a good, solid track record also in setting standards. Maybe some of you know that they also created the greenhouse gas protocol a while back. Circular IQ is WBCSD's software partner for the circular transition indicators. So that's the name for this accounting framework that now has global traction. So this was in fact the most downloaded publication of WBCSD in 2021 and also in 2022. We have companies in 94 countries, over 2,000 using our software to understand how circular their performance is currently, but maybe more importantly, what is driving their circular performance. So to understand which materials, which suppliers are actually influencing your circular performance on the inflow side and on the outflow side, how, for example, take-back schemes or collection of finished products influence your ability to decrease waste. And our software does that with minimum data. So it's a very useful screening solution for understanding, based on a very small data set, how exactly you are influencing resource depletion, global warming, and waste generation, and where these negative impacts and how they are related to materials and suppliers. The comprehensive reports we generate help you start up conversations with departments inside your organization, like procurement, design, to spark also conversations in your value chain, and to identify and unlock new opportunities for sustainable business creation. In our software, you can run scenarios, and you can very easily identify which improvement projects give you the biggest bang for the buck. So the software really shows like, hey, if you're able to increase the recycled content in this specific material, then that will have a total impact of X% on improving your ability to close the loop. In this example, we can see that a combination of 4 improvements to different material inflows increases the overall performance with over 17%. In short, our software really shows you what your opportunities are and which suppliers you should speak to, which materials you should focus on to improve your performance, to improve product design, to make sure that you create the product in a way where you can use it longer, to make sure that at the end of life, the materials that are used inside your product can be used again, and then keeping track of that over multiple use cycles. We also offer the capability to compare your company's performance to peers, comparing the products your suppliers are offering to each other, so you can select the material with the best characteristics, and also create transparency on how the different suppliers in your supplier base are performing. So you know exactly who is in the minimum, who is in the maximum, and you can actually, by having this insight, generate very easy and straightforward initiatives to improve the performance of your supplier base. We have a lot of traction in different sectors, as you can see here with a selection of our top customers per industry. And for the coming year, we want to focus especially on retail, because we are seeing huge volumes in terms of products moving through retail organizations, pressure to improve packaging, and also pressure to become compliant with the new European legislation. We offer very, let's say, easy to start project support, where we can help you starting small with a proof of value focused with a limited scope to show you the value of the product. And then we can expand from there once you have seen the results we can deliver for your company. For the coming year, we are also focusing on CSRD. I don't know whom of you has heard about that, but this is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which will be an EU legislation that will become mandatory from 2024. One of the main aspects of the CSRD is E5, which is the section on the circular economy. And it is our goal with our software to help our customers to get their reporting in order in time for the CSRD, so they can also leverage their existing investments in that area as well. And we see it as an opportunity for us to scale and grow faster. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much, and looking forward to hear any of your questions.
Thanks a lot, Roy. So if like the EU legislation already will force companies to work with you, you have a great future.
Yeah, it's not forcing them to work with us. It's just forcing them to establish clarity and be able to report on material composition for all the materials that are material to their business.
But I think this is, I think it's necessary. That's what I meant, like with Loopcycle, that at the end, government is at this point definitely playing kind of a role. If companies by themselves are intrinsically motivated to do this, maybe they help others. But actually, if you like look at the shortage of raw material, copper will not last whole of our life, for example. So you could predict like how many years it would take, or how you can, what are the milestones over the next years, how much by recovering, that's what he said, predicting endangered materials, I would say, like by reusing existing materials and instead of buying new raw materials. That's why you can help by measuring and tracking and then actually leading the strategy. Did I get this right?
Yeah, one of the use cases, for example, evolves around critical materials. So the EU critical materials list is growing every year. So on this list, we have materials with supply chain risks or geopolitical issues. So one of the use cases for our software is, as a company, of course, you want to phase these materials out and you want to understand what are the alternatives and where exactly and in which volumes are these materials now present in my products. So you know whether you're operating within the thresholds, the accepted thresholds or not. So we help companies to identify where they have these critical materials and basically get a grip and start the right conversations with their value chain partners on phasing them out. But the use case goes beyond, let's say, the legislative part. Like we also see use cases, for example, evolved around procurement, where the company has set ambitious targets to increase the recycled content in the products they sell. And then it makes a lot of sense to focus on procurement and just give procurement targets on increasing recycled and renewable content in the materials they are sourcing to produce the product.
So you mentioned like that retail is an important market to you, but if I get it right, if it comes like really to your product, is it not more like manufacturers who are producing the product that they are closer to the materials that they need in order to recycle or to reuse existing materials to produce the next new smartphone or whatever? So why retail actually?
Yeah, we are interested in retail because the barriers to implement our software are relatively low. Like we have amazing results already with the retailers we are working with, where we run this very easy to implement initiative that is just about, hey, you have a fixed assortment of products in your shop. This fixed assortment is divided over a couple of product categories. For every product category, we look at the top 50 products, and we just start registering the circular performance that the suppliers are offering. And now we create an incentive for the procurement people to incorporate the circular performance into the decision-making process. So once we have established clarity on the baseline, we start giving them incentives, or it's not Circular IQ that does that, but the top management, to every buying cycle increase the circular performance of at least 5 products. And it's no longer acceptable to have lower circular performance than you had the buying cycle before. This is relevant because in retail, the customer is demanding more sustainable alternatives on the shelf. So if you work with our solution, you can explain very well why the product is circular or sustainable, how it is sustainable. So that resonates very well with this target audience. So it's a very easy to implement way for retailers, because it really doesn't influence their day-to-day business, to focus on improving product, but also improving packaging. So they separate product and packaging as assessments. So they have a double win, basically, in the face of the customer.
Cool. Thank you. I have another question. Actually, I have 2. First is from the audience. The other one is from my side. The question I have right now, I will write down the question. It's perfect for our next CIRCULAZE exchange, which we should discuss in a bigger group. It would take maybe a little bit longer, but maybe you can answer briefly the question. The question is, can you explain what the people attending today can do to be ready for the EU legislation? So is it possible to bring in one sentence?
Yeah, I just read the question also in the chat. That helps. So thanks for this question. So of course there's no one size fits all answer, because the gap you need to bridge as a company can be very different. So this new CSRD legislation. So obviously we are, let's say, closely involved and also linked to the people writing this legislation. So that helps. So the first thing we see in the market is business. The leadership of the business wants to know how big the gap is they need to bridge and where is the gap. Like the CSRD has different components. Like one of these components is E5 that basically considers circular economy related reporting needs. So what you want to understand as a business is for each of these different topics, how big is the gap I need to bridge? So I know when I need to start doing the work in order to be compliant. So for that, we have now developed a questionnaire, which we will launch together with Circle Economy. That's also one of our partners. That's the organization that creates the Circularity Gap report. And we will publish also a questionnaire for all businesses to basically answer for free to establish clarity on the gap they have to comply with CSRD. And that will be present from February 9th on csrdtool.com. So people know us now from ctitool.com, but then we will also be reaching out through csrdtool.com.
Cool. Yeah, I just recently met an interesting startup that is helping to automate or systemize the preparation, because there are so many digital different legislation out there, and depending on the country and the topic and the industry you're in, the different things you have to fulfill. And there's a startup with everything in one system, and you can just use this software by implementing your information you have, and then it tells you what is missing in your company and what you have to do. Yeah. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, I agree. But and for some topics, it's very easy. Like CSRD is also about, publicly communicate your targets on topics like on certain topics. So that's like very easy and straightforward. Like you can automate that in the software. Do you have the policy? Check mark. And if you don't have it, no check mark. Yeah. But for this material data, if let's say if it's material to your business, then that's not something you can fix in a quarter or even in 6 months. Like that's serious work. So you want to know that way ahead of time, because otherwise you'll be risking non-compliance. Yeah. And in the CSRD, it's actually very strict. The capabilities from Brussels to basically ensure compliance are rather heavy.
Yeah, even if we are running out of time, but last question, I think this should normally be interesting for all of our people in the session is business cases and at the end figures. So do your software really help and do you really measure how much money you save by like reusing, recycling, or saving time, whatever? So do you really measure this topic?
Yeah, we do, but it's actually not in that area. So where we can be very clear on how we save money is the following example. So all our customers have sustainability goals. So they know in 3 years, we need to have this recycled content, we need to have that recovery rate, etc. But they are very often uncertain because they're investing in like 10 different projects at once. Like, what is the specific contribution of each of these projects to achieving my goal? And that's where actually we make the business case by showing our customers exactly and giving them the assurance that they are investing in the projects that move the needle, and we allow them to kill any projects that are basically not helping them, which puts them in a very good position to communicate with the company leadership, saying, in our case, for example, it doesn't make sense to electrify the last mile delivery because the impact on achieving our targets is 0.1%, and we are investing 300K. So let's stop doing that and invest in getting our material balancing in order.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Whoever is interested meeting you, they can find you on LinkedIn also, and if not, they can contact us and we will bring you together. So thanks a lot for your presentation. Awesome. And good luck for the future. You're right. I think you're definitely in the right spot with your solution, what you're offering. Okay, so last but not least, Laura is will now join us from devicenow. devicenow, I already mentioned at the beginning, like when we talked about Loopcycle, they are just doing it, and that's maybe why they're so successful. They're like really growing like hell. Maybe you tell a little bit about the figures, maybe not. I know one of the owners, and he told me, but I got quite jealous about when he told me the success story about your company, which you achieved within the last 15 months. So like, if like Loopcycle is collecting data and trying to trace everything, this is actually your business. You take care of this. So devicenow ensures sustainability by using by use of company ID devices globally and offers a true device subscription. That's what we wrote down the pitch for the top 20. And you do this by sourcing to recycling with a global device as a service solution, which is based on the concept of circular economy. So you are really completely in the product. You deliver it to companies, you take it back for reuse it, for recycling. So it will be interesting to learn more about what this really means, what kind of products these are, you're taking care, what kind of industries you're working in. And so Laura, the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Klaus, for the introduction. Yeah, I'm happy to represent devicenow today, not as a founder, but as a sales representative. So I'm sharing my screen now. Second. So you should see it now, right? Yeah, as Klaus said, devicenow is a subscription model worldwide, or also known as device as a service. So yeah, we are focusing on the hardware side, not on the software side. And yeah, devicenow actually was founded more or less at the same time than this network event, let's say. Actually last year in June. So the good thing is that we're yeah, say quite new company, but yeah, we have the, I'm not able to go to the next slide. I don't know why. No. Yeah, we're actually happy to have two companies in the back, which is CHG Meridian, focusing on IT leasing already for over 40 years, also international company with a lot of experience in every market, strong focus on the financial side as a leasing company. And on the other side, we're having Hammersbach in the back, which is a company already delivering services globally for big companies like HP, Dell, or Lenovo. So they're doing the service delivery, on-site service for big customers. And yeah, with those two companies, we have focus on the financial side, but also on the service side. And so these two companies yeah, came together and founded devicenow as a rental model or device as a service. So yeah, we already have the luxury, let's say, to benefit from the two big companies in the back. And yeah, for this reason, we are already able today to offer the service in 190 countries worldwide. Yeah, so device as a service, of course, it's a topic everywhere. And so it's nice to be able to already have the infrastructure to cover, let's say, the whole world. There are some gray spots, but still in those cases, we will find a solution. And most of the customers we're talking to at the moment are international companies, and they're quite happy if they see the map, because then they can make a check for every country they're in. So that's yeah, basically a big focus on devicenow to be able to deliver internationally. But what's actually our concept? So the idea of devicenow is to offer a device as a service with a focus on standardization and automation. So the main focus is to have like minimum configurations for different device categories. So for example, we are offering smartphones, notebooks, desktop PCs, tablets, and also accessories like monitors, keyboard, mouse, headset, and so on. And the idea is to have for each device category, for example, for the notebooks, one standard notebook and one performance notebook. And they have minimum configuration based on the screen size, processor, SSD, and RAM. So, and also regarding the manufacturer, we're not saying, okay, you will get this specific device, but you will get, for example, notebook from Dell, HP, or Lenovo. So it's kind of similar with car rental. So if you go to the airport and you want to rent a car, you won't know beforehand if it's going to be Mercedes, Audi, or whatsoever. You just go there and you get a car based on, let's say, a specific car category. And with us, it's more or less the same. So we go away from having specific IT devices to try to have a standardization. Yeah, so this gives us the flexibility to react on like how or which devices are better available, also regarding the prices, as we're also covering the sourcing of the devices. So that's quite nice to have this flexibility, especially as we have seen in the COVID pandemic that some manufacturers had difficulties in delivering their devices. So with this concept, we're having more flexibility. To add to those devices, there are some options, like for example, to add peripherals, or also to be able to set up vending machines at the customer so they are able to access devices faster. Also, for example, to add accidental damage protection. So yeah, to add some individual things that the customers need. And if the standard or the minimum configurations don't fit to the customer, for example, not for their whole users, it's possible to have an individual solution as well. For example, software developers might need a specific notebook, and then the customers can say, okay, we want to have this specific notebook, and that's then also possible to be more individual, even though the focus is in general to standardize this whole concept. And the main USPs we have is that we offer for our standard devices, we offer the next business day swap worldwide. In my sense, it's already like 2 USPs because we're having a next business day swap. So the customers or the employees are able to work faster again if they have a broken device. And that's not only possible, for example, in Germany, but all over the world. So in every country, whether it's in Germany, in Peru, in Australia, or whatsoever, we're able to deliver this next business day swap with a device of the same device or with a better device. So that gives us even the flexibility to work with those minimum configs. And the second USP is the business flex, which means that customers can give back devices earlier. For example, if an employee is leaving the company earlier, they can just return the device, or for example, if they want to have an upgrade on some specific users, that's possible as well. And gives also the flexibility worldwide to the customers. And we're actually responsible for the whole life cycle, which means we're covering from the purchasing of the devices till the remarketing of the devices, the whole life cycle. And customers just need to do a forecast for every quarter to say, okay, we need, I don't know, 500 notebooks and 1,000 smartphones or whatsoever. And then as soon as they order the devices, we are able to deliver the devices within 10 business days. So that's also quite good. If there are new joiners and so on, they're fast able to work. And how the users are able to order is either via their own systems that they're already using, like SAP or whatsoever, or if they don't want to use their own systems and have an interface to us, they can use our ordering platform, which is already in place. So that's from the order. And then, also a main benefit of devicenow is that we are staging the devices for the customers, which means, for example, we register the devices already. We can add the user profiles on the devices. So everything gets prepared, and then we are also able to bump the devices, like, for example, with accessories, with monitors. So the user gets everything he needs. And then the delivery is either, for example, made to the office location where the user is located, or to the home office address, which is also possible. We can also have at bigger custom locations, IT bars or vending machines, as mentioned before. So users get their device wherever they need it. And then as soon as the user receives his package, he's just open it, puts in his credentials, and then he's already ready to work. So zero touch employment, that's what we call it. So there's also not so much effort for the IT departments, but we are taking care of preparing the devices. And of course, we're hoping that the devices will work until the end of their usage periods, like, for example, which is for notebooks, like 36 months, and for smartphones, the standard period is 24 months. But of course, there might happen some break and fix cases. So the user just opens the tickets at his ITSM system of the customer. And if it's a hardware issue, then we will get forwarded the ticket and we will take care of it, swap the device, and the user receives a return label and sends back the device to us. So that's how we do the support. And at the end of the usage period, the user also returns the device with a return label sent by us. And we take care of the data swipe, and then, which is interesting for us, especially today, have a look at how we can use this device in other scenarios as well. And it's basically also the main idea of our concept, to have a sustainable concept. So the devices get usually used a second or a third time, depending on the status they're coming back to us. And also, for example, it's possible to include used devices in our concept as well, or if devices get swapped, they might be used as well. So it's more sustainable regarding already on the circular economy approach. And then we're also doing investments in climate projects to offset the CO2 emissions. And that's what we'll call then carbon neutral. And maybe to give also a little bit on an idea on where we're standing at the moment. So as I said, we were founded last year, but we're already happy to have a lot of success so far. I'm also happy to be part of devicenow from the beginning. And we already won our first customers. We're already starting with the first rollouts. And this year is really, looks really promising. And we really get very good feedback from customers so far. So we're really happy with devicenow for now. If you are interested, of course, you can contact me. I also included here a QR code. You can scan it, and yeah. Also, I'm now happy to hear some questions, or Klaus, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's impressive what you're doing because this is very process driven, and you close the gap. But like Loopcycle needs to get the information, you're completely in the cycle of the product. So therefore, the stage today of your sustainability and circular economy approach is very strong in the reuse of products. So 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times by reusing existing products, which is one very important element of circular economy. Many people think if we talk about circular economy, it's only cradle to cradle. You produce a product, you can throw it in the woods, and it disappears, and then it's again the material is in the ground, and then you can out of this you create a new material by producing a new product. So it's not only this; it's also a lot about reusing products. Do you have an approach like, because you have many products in a big volume like that you're circulating, it's already have plans about repairing and refurbishing, or is this already part of this in the reuse in your products?
This is already part, like if we're swapping devices, in the background we are repairing then the devices, and we will use it, we'll use this device, for example, at the same customer again, or even it's possible to use this device at another customer scenario as well. As we're working with those minimum configurations, it's possible to use the same devices for different customers. That's already part today. Of course, there are not so many used devices for now, but I guess it will get more in the future. And also, I think, for example, in France, it's already demanded to have a certain percentage of devices that are used in the concept, and I think it will get more and more in the future as well. And of course, we will have more used devices in the future.
Do you know by accident, because like Ralph, one of your shareholders, told me, do you have kind of a prediction of the CO2 neutrality will be driven by circular economy, and reusing, refurbishing, and is one big important topic. So do you have any kind of figures what you achieve already so far with your clients, and what opportunities are in the market, depending on the growth you have that you can deliver on the topic of CO2 neutrality, and how much it will be?
Oh, that's difficult to say as we're just starting, let's say. But yeah, I guess as the devices can get used twice or 3 times, of course, we will be able to reduce the emissions a lot. I think it also depends on like how open customers are to really, yeah, include used devices in a new rollout, for example. But yeah, I think that's something we will see in the upcoming months and years.
I see there's one question from the audience. How important do you think is the sustainable circular economy approach in your concept?
Yeah, I think it's really important, as I just said, that in some countries it's already demanded to include used devices, and of course, like customers already have yeah, some goals to be more sustainable and so on, and therefore it's really important for them to have also an IT concept which is sustainable. So sometimes they're already asking for it. So even in Germany, there are a lot of customers asking on how do we contribute to sustainability, and I think it will definitely get more in the future as well.
I have one last question. Like, you mentioned that from the car, if you book a rental car, so we were quite used, like I book a car, and if I'm lucky, I get a BMW, but it could also be a Mitsubishi or Mazda, depending on what category I booked. How relevant is this for your clients? Is it so easy to handle like with car booking, or they are like more brand oriented, or maybe they have contracts with existing partners, so therefore you're limited on this. So the standardization, is this a topic or is it easy?
There are some customers that are really open and say, I don't care which manufacturer we have in use. There are others that are not really open there yet. So yeah, but maybe they say, okay, it's not the right timing yet, but maybe in, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 years. But we're already having, for example, for notebooks, we tell the customers which brands it could be. So it's HP, Dell, or Lenovo. And for smartphones, for example, we're working with Apple or Samsung. And in those cases, they would know beforehand if it would be a Samsung or an Apple. But yeah, in general, I think there are already a lot of customers that are open to that, to say, okay, I am open to have a standardization and then to be able to have a global concept, which is centralized, and I have service globally. So therefore, I'm open to just standardize the devices, for example.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your presentation and sharing the details about your company and your startup. So if anybody will contact you, they have your contact data, and if not, they will contact us and we will connect you guys. So all in all, to the rest who's still in there, thank you for joining our virtual trend tour. The next one will be on the 13th of February. It will be about transportation, mobility, logistics, so mobility of people and goods. Our co-founder, Natasha, will have the lead. The keynote will be from the CMO of devicenow, who is also a partner of our initiative and supporting our initiative. So we're looking forward to meet you there. I hope you enjoyed the presentation today. We had great startups who are very deep in kind of software solution services, but also taking care about waste management and resource management, which is definitely, from our perspective, one of the main topics, especially if you look at the existing market and the lack or shortage of raw material, but also the supply chain bottleneck that we're facing today. So enjoy the rest of the evening. I hope we had fun and see you soon in February. And for all of you who are interested joining and supporting this initiative, we're looking forward and would be happy to show you what we are planning. So getting you on board. Bye-bye.